But with that visibility came something Eva never anticipated. Something that would turn her dream into a living nightmare. Eva was a single mother, raising her 5-year-old daughter Kaya in Los Angeles. Like many actors who achieve primetime success, she received fan mail, lots of it. Most messages were kind, enthusiastic notes from viewers who loved her work. Her manager and publicist handled the correspondence, filtering through the letters before they reached her. Then one day, 3 letters arrived within the same week that made everyone stop cold. The messages were different from typical fan mail. They were obscene, violent, terrifying. Each one contained graphic, sexually explicit threats describing rape, torture, and murder in disturbing detail. And they were all signed the same way: Freddie Krueger, a deliberate misspelling of the fictional serial killer from A Nightmare on Elm Street. At first, Eva tried to rationalize it. Maybe it was a twisted prank, some disturbed individual having a sick laugh. But the letters kept coming, and they kept getting worse. "I am going to instill fear into every part of your life," one letter promised. Another was even more chilling. "I am going to stalk you until the day you die." Eva later described these communications as the most heinous, most deplorable, most sickening, most terrifying threats she had ever encountered. But what truly broke her heart, what transformed professional concern into maternal terror, was when the stalker began targeting her little girl. "And then he began leveling them against my little girl," Eva recalls, her voice still trembling with the memory years later. Eva faced an agonizing decision that no parent should ever have to make. How do you protect your child from an invisible threat? How do you explain to a 5-year-old that someone wants to hurt her without destroying her innocence? How do you keep functioning, keep working, keep living, when you're terrified that every shadow might contain a monster? She chose to shoulder the burden alone. Eva contacted law enforcement, installed security cameras throughout their home, and made the painful decision to keep most of the details hidden from Kaya. She would read only a handful of the dozens of letters that arrived over the years. She simply couldn't stomach reading the rest. "Your one job as a parent is to keep your kids safe," Eva explained. "Like, that's it. That's your freaking job." And I was feeling like I couldn't do my job. I couldn't do my job. The physical toll was devastating. Eva's eyelashes fell out from stress. Her body broke out in hives. She couldn't sleep without a weapon under her bed. The constant state of hypervigilance rewired her brain. She was always scanning, always calculating, always 4 steps ahead of what her stalker might do next. "There was no place to hide because you don't know where he could be," she said. "You really are in a prison of your own making." Between March 2007 and June 2015, James David Rogers, a 61-year-old nurse's assistant from Heath, Ohio, mailed approximately 37 threatening letters to Eva and her daughter. But the letters themselves weren't the worst part. It was what they represented: an escalating obsession from someone who seemed to know where they were. Eva moved once. The letters found her. She moved again. The letters found her. She moved a 3rd time, taking extreme precautions to anonymize their address, avoiding receiving mail and packages at their actual home. The letters still found her. One letter that arrived after a move simply read, "I have finally found you." How was he tracking them? Eva and Kaya drove circuitous routes home, constantly checking their mirrors. They slept with weapons nearby. They had detailed conversations about what to do if Freddie found them and tried to attack. This wasn't living. It was surviving. For Kaya, growing up meant growing up in shadow. She knew something was wrong with her mother, even if she didn't know the full extent of why. She remembers seeing her mom break down in tears when she was around 12 years old. At 12, that was devastating, Kaya recalls. In 2015, the letters stopped. For 4 years, there was silence. Eva and Kaya dared to hope that maybe, just maybe, it was finally over. Kaya, now 17, had been told more details about the stalking. She was aware. But she was also trying to live her life, attending high school and planning for her future. Then came October 2019, and the day that still gives Eva jump scares. Kaya was in class when she was called to the school office. The receptionist had a message. Her father had called and was coming to pick her up from school. Kaya, immediately suspicious, texted her mother to verify. Eva's blood ran cold. She called her ex-husband, fellow All My Children actor John Callahan, who confirmed he was nowhere near Los Angeles and definitely hadn't called the school. The stalker had found Kaya's school. He was attempting to impersonate her father to abduct her. Eva raced to the school, her worst fears crystallizing into reality. The nightmare wasn't over. It had simply been waiting, mutating into something even more terrifying. Freddie Krueger wasn't just sending letters anymore. He was taking action. According to federal prosecutors, Rogers called Kaya's school 18 times that November. He left a voicemail identifying himself as Freddie Krueger and explicitly threatening to rape her, molest her, and kill her. But Rogers made a crucial mistake. While his obsession had made him bold, it also made him careless. Law enforcement had been collecting evidence throughout the years, and they had DNA samples from the letters he'd sent. In November 2019, just after the terrifying school incident, police made a breakthrough. The DNA matched James David Rogers, an Ohio resident who had been living his double life as both a healthcare worker and a sadistic stalker. Rogers was arrested and charged with 2 counts of mailing threatening communications, 1 count of threats by interstate communications, and 2 counts of stalking. In 2022, after years of legal proceedings, he pleaded guilty to all charges. The sentencing memorandum painted a devastating picture of the impact Rogers had on his victims. LaRue and her daughter moved numerous times in hopes that Rogers would not find them again. They drove circuitous routes home, slept with weapons nearby, and had discussions about how to seek help quickly if Rogers found them and tried to harm them. Rogers was sentenced to 40 months in federal prison, just over 3 years for 12 years of terror. For Kaya, now 23, the arrest brought a sense of freedom she hadn't felt since she was 5 years old. It was very freeing, she said. I just felt like I could live a normal life again. But for Eva, the scars run deeper. While Rogers is now released from prison, the psychological wounds remain. It was a full-body takeover, Eva explained in a recent interview. It really is an absolute rewiring of how you move through life. There's no way to ever go back to innocence, somebody had said to me. Well, can you move on now? No. Your brain never goes back to not being hypervigilant. In November 2025, Eva and Kaya decided to share their story publicly in the Paramount Plus docuseries My Nightmare Stalker, the Eva LaRue story. For Kaya, filming was a surreal experience. Because my mom kept so much hidden, I didn't know much about it, she explained. It was like reliving it and yet experiencing it for the very first time. But both mother and daughter have a mission now. They're advocating for stronger anti-stalking laws and raising awareness about how vulnerable everyone, not just celebrities, can be in the digital age. It's not just celebrities. All of us can be targeted through social media, Eva emphasizes. We want to help everybody who's being stalked and instill some hope. Eva LaRue's story isn't just about one woman's ordeal with a stalker. It's about the systemic failures that allow stalking to continue for over a decade. It's about how fame can make you a target. It's about how the justice system often moves too slowly to protect victims until after the worst has already happened. But most importantly, it's about a mother's love and her refusal to let evil win. Despite the terror, despite the moves, despite the sleepless nights and the weapons under the bed, Eva kept working, kept providing for her daughter, kept fighting. And in the end, she and Kaya survived. They're telling their story not for sympathy, but to light the way for others who are living in the shadows of their own Freddie Krugers. Because Eva LaRue knows something that many people don't. The real monsters aren't in horror movies. They're in our mailboxes, on our phone lines, and lurking behind anonymous profiles online. And the only way to defeat them is to drag them into the light. If you like the story, I'd be forever grateful if you gently tap the like and subscribe button and the bell for notifications.